Let's do it. Let's tear down the Jaguar new ad strategy. If you haven't seen it yet, Jaguar's just launched overnight a massive reposition of the brand. The idea being this idea to copy nothing. The visuals are so out there and the comments are like, where's the cars? Were you sniffing white powder? The feedback's been brutal. What's clear is they're trying to take a break from where they've been as a brand and try and reinvent themselves. Delete Ordinary is almost a throwback to get rid of the heritage of the brand that they've had, and there's definitely no taste of who they were originally. It looks like this word around exuberance is where they want to head, but instead, I want to tear things down with a GBT to see where we would have landed if we'd got this brief. So we're working on custom GBTs to help us refine back. The heart of the origin story is, I think, where they want it to sit. So firstly, we feed the GBT, here's the origin story from Jaguar. It's actually quite a cool story. There's some interesting stuff around being innovators, from motorcycles to sidecars to then launch the E-Type car that Jaguar is really known for. That innovation to copy no one, that really does come through a lot in what they're doing. Once we have that, we ask it to distill this into an elevator pitch. So you can see here, Jaguar is reimagining the road ahead. There's some keywords here which I felt like the new campaign missed. British, craftsmanship, boldness, it was there. Iconic design, exhilarating performance, sustainable driving without compromise, and redefining elegance. So some key themes there. You can see they kind of touched on some of them they didn't hit. I also wanted to feed it this idea of copy no one to see where it would land to kind of get a blended version. Once we've got the elevator pitch, the next thing is to get out of our own bubble and to see, well, is this actually defendable versus other British manufacturers that are in the luxury space, Aston Martin, Bentley, McLaren. How does it kind of sit? Does the elevator pitch cut through? Good thing is it does. There's some real opportunities around making it accessible, not being so exclusive, and definitely on the sustainable and luxury piece, there's some opportunities too. And then that's that prompt there. So are there any unique aspects related to targeting, branding, positioning that are not being met by these established brands that we could sit into? From here, we got 10 gaps in the market that we're then going to get it to focus on 3 of those to give a 10 unique value proposition statements from. From those 10 unique value propositions, I liked option 3, 8, and I wanted them to merge option 9 and 5, which were both focused on the British focus as well. We then get 5 value statements or positioning statements, and you can start seeing some of these sound pretty cool for a brand to be built on. Crafting legends, inspiring journeys. British soul, electric vision. There's some fun you can have here. It was kind of clear from the output that Jaguar didn't want to just be constantly referring back to where they were. So I started pushing in a bit of a direction, thinking of the client's brief itself. The next step is to kind of get out of our own world, and this is a mistake we often see brands make. You've got a 360-degree view of the campaign. You're in a boardroom, you're on big screens, you've got all the intel, and it makes sense. You kind of forget about what are the things people like about your brand, don't like about your brand and the industry. And so usually at this stage, we'd force a whole bunch of research in. This is where we'd spend a lot of manual time because you can really hone the GBT. Not having that access, and Jaguar and luxury electric vehicles being a pretty prominent market, I just went to the internet for it to give the top 5 things that people like about Jaguar, like about electric vehicles in the luxury space, don't like about the Jaguar, don't like about luxury vehicles, and you get some key points from that. This is a really key prompt. So does my product solve any of the things people don't like about the industry? Because this can give you some product angles to really focus on, to highlight in any marketing campaign. From here, we want to get 3 customer personas. We want these personas to talk about all of the demographic type information. I love the Bain elements of value, but I also love pain points and dream states and objections. We want the idea of uniquely solve as well. It's not just that any brand can solve, it's what can Jaguar uniquely solve. I like this persona 3 because it kind of felt like the customer that Jaguar once had. There's another clear direction to move away from the customer they had to kind of leave them behind. But that doesn't mean you need to leave behind the thinking and feeling that that persona would have had maybe at a younger age or at a younger time. There's throwaway comments around, oh, petrol heads would, they're not going to follow into an electric. That might be true, but that doesn't mean you leave behind the thinking and the feeling of someone that would have bought a Jaguar back in the day. The British element, the style element, the fact that it stands out, that it's innovative, you don't have to leave that behind. And I think that's a mistake the brand has made. From persona 3, we then ask for 5 marketing angles for some online ads. We want to look at the British soul, electric vision, and crafting legends, inspiring journeys as a single-minded propositions. And then we ask it for angle names, the dream states, the pain points. The angle that I like best was is crafted for the bold. It goes through and shares what the pain point of desire is, what the dream state, the benefits to highlight, and actually gives some ad examples of where that could come out. This is super important to ask, again, to get yourself out of thinking just about yourself, but actually the customer. How do you make the customer the hero or the star of the story? So where does this actually help them solve the fear, tackle the fear, achieve their dreams, what they want? Too often the brand's ads fall flat once you get to the feed because it's so focused on what I want to say. You know, when you're at a party and someone's just talking about themselves, it's okay for a little bit. Eventually you just can't wait to get away. That's this moment. You want somebody that understands you and what you're going through and craft their story to that. And I think here's where Jaguar focused too much on one side of the story. Finally, given the Jaguar was in market already, I wanted to see what the GBT think about all the research that we had to see what would actually work best in market. Now, interestingly, it actually did back the copy nothing strategy, which it had, but it uncovered a really key insight through that, which I think is really important to dig deep on. So I asked it with a Burnett and Field long and short of it in mind, give us a 1, 3, and 5, a 10-year horizon. And it actually said in the first year, a blended approach or actually leaning into this idea of copy no one could be stronger. And thinking through this and understanding where the position was coming from, what it's likely to do in that first year is drag all of those contrarian people that want their personal brand to be known for something, that they would jump. I would say this is your early Tesla customer that then jumped to Polestar, that would now jump to Jaguar. But that doesn't actually mean they're buying into the brand or going to be brand loyal or the story or care about the British element in any way. And actually over 3 and 10 year time frame, that idea of being crafted for the bold that brings in the unique element of them as a British company, that shows us some amazing language in here in the brand style guide prompt, that showing iconic landmarks and landscapes of Britain, but with some modernized flair and lines and the way the car sort of sleeks through, could be a really great way to show that idea of craft. And it had a really, really damning comment for the copy no one. So the GBT went and asked it around what's a weakness of this campaign, and it said potentially feels like an abstract perfume ad. That hurts because it does. It feels like you're kind of like $90 bottle. Maybe it's a collab with Jaguar and someone else, or maybe it's a new fragrance called Jaguar. Not showing the product, appreciate the product would come, but just the overall feel, by trying to say you're luxury and premium in what you're doing, it gives the idea that you're not luxury and premium. And so for me, this campaign is a fail because it's failed to recognize both the legacy of the brand and who the brand is uniquely, as well as maybe the modern customer. I think this is a case where they've gone so all in on the customer and what's maybe in the zeitgeist or trends that maybe they will get a bump. They're at Miami Art Show. There's enough people out there that want to show themselves to be different. But this isn't a brand long-term position in play, and they've left behind all their other brand codes, which we know are just so important. There's nothing wrong with wanting to modernize and move to a new audience, but the spirit of the brand, and that's what the GBT helped touch on, still taking the spirit and the codes of the brand to a new audience is completely possible. Why were people attracted to Jag back in the day? That is a new audience, but you can still bring that spirit through in what you're doing and create a new brand and a fresh feel. It's just about sense checking around who you are uniquely and what is your audience looking for and how you marry those things up together. To me, it feels like there's a bit of white powder that's been sniffed.